on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
What a beautiful day to be alive. My debt is paid and more money arrives. The fridge is full and there's plenty of ice for a fireside chat with anyone I like. What a beautiful day, good to be here, when almost everyone has disappeared. When almost everyone is waiting in line, it's good to meet you in this world of mine.
Welcome everybody to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com. This is Monday, November 20th, 2017, or some semblance of that timing. Who knows, it could be a totally different day and time in your world because you could be listening into the archives. But for now, we're just going to assume the live show is being recorded at the time that I've said, and we are happy you are here. This is Thanksgiving week in the United States, and so we have always this anticipation of the holidays kicking off and getting started, and we've got lots to celebrate and lots to be grateful for. And one of the things that we're so incredibly grateful for this evening is our very own Dr. Carolyn Dean. And for those first-time listeners who are joining us tonight, you are truly in for a treat because you're going to be hearing from and talking with, should you choose to call in, one of the most authoritative, well, not just authoritative, she's intuitive, powerful, wise, and all-knowing when it comes to natural health, natural medicine, and how to use nutrients and other natural remedies to your benefit as a strategy to avoid surgeries and drugs that, as we all know, you have tremendous side effects and possibly don't even solve the issue, right? Because as we're finding out from Dr. Dean, what's at the foundation of so many health challenges can be magnesium and mineral deficiency related, and it can also be related to the foods that you're eating, the environment that you're in, and with some very modest adjustments, you can make very dramatic changes in a very short period of time. Let me also just say that the reason why Dr. Dean knows so much is because she's a student. She's a student of the body. She's a student of life. She's a student of the environment. She has been studying, learning, and using herself as a lab rat for the last 50 years. She's learned from the best minds. She's learned from the best everything you can imagine, and she's assembled all this information for you to make it easy for you. And one thing that I love about Carolyn is she simplifies things. She makes it easy to be able to manage your body, manage your health, and do it comfortably and easily. We're so happy to have her here this evening, and before I bring her on, I just want to let you know that she is a credentialed medical doctor. She's also a credentialed naturopath, and herbalist, and acupuncturist. She is a nutritionist, a lecturer, consultant, author, inventor, and she's an entrepreneur, ladies and gentlemen. She does have a financial interest in some of the products she talks about tonight, and that's A-OK. And but let me also say, even though she's got that whole thing going on, she does not give medical advice on her show, but she will tell you what she would do if it were her faced with some of the challenges that people have in their health. So we bring her on this evening with all kinds of fanfare and with all kinds of excitement and all kinds of gratitude, and we're glad everybody's on board today and ready and willing to be with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on Achieve Radio. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you, Ginny. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bill. And the show closes. Have we done it?
No, that's what we say. No, that's what we say at the end, not at the beginning.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. So we have 2 hours to fill up with awesomeness. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right. We've only just begun to be amazing.
Well, I don't know if I should say this because I always expose myself way before I should, but I should probably say that I've been experimenting with intermittent fasting, so I'm on day 2 of a fast. I feel okay, but I may be a little irrational, a little irritable. I don't think Bob can say I'm more irritable than usual, but I'll have some information in the next few weeks for people on my own biohacking of my own biology. So, that being said, let's go to Ginny's blog because this was a good one. Around the holidays, you're going to be exposed to a lot of your family, a lot of elderly aunts, uncles, grandparents, even parents. Ginny's blog is at drcarolyndeanlive.com, so you can follow along if you want to go there and read it. And what's going to happen is because you're on the completement formulas, because you're feeling so fantastic, you're going to start bragging it up to your friends and family, and they're going to react however they react. We've already had somebody email and say, yeah, what you say is totally perfect, but how can I talk people into doing it? And the suggestions are get them Remag. Put Remag lotion in their stocking and give it to them as a body cream. Who doesn't like body creams? And that's the way to start out. Take some Restructure. We have Restructure packets back in the... Do we, Ginny? Do we have the Restructure packets back on the cart?
We do. Yay. And wait a minute, that deserves a big yay and amen. Where's my yay button? There we go.
Yeah, we're so busy doing whatever that I guess we should announce that the Restructure package. So with your traveling and with your stockings, put a few Restructure packets in the stockings and get people hooked on the Restructure in that way and the Remag lotion. So that is primo way of getting your elderly friends and relatives on magnesium, 100% absorbed through the skin. It's working wonders in all the people who are taking it. And Ginny goes on, I think she's cutting and pasting some from my Magnesium Miracle book, 2017 edition. And it's shocking what's going on with our elderly. They're warehoused in nursing care facilities. They're not getting their nutrients at all from their food. The research is saying that sick elderly people are very low in magnesium. But there are also studies that say healthy elderly people stay that way because they have higher total body magnesium levels. Someone wrote and said that seemed to be a contradiction, but what it is healthy people have their magnesium and unhealthy people don't at any age group. And more and more studies. All the information is there. 79% of adults 55 and over reportedly eating below the recommended dietary allowance of magnesium. And that's where I get my figure of 80% of the population is deficient, because the amount of magnesium that's advised in the RDA is way too low to deal with all the things that magnesium needs to deal with. So we just say over and over again, the people who are low in magnesium, you could read in all my literature and information, they're suffering from neurological problems, even Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. There are studies showing that people who have those conditions are low in magnesium. So what are you going to do? Give drugs for those conditions, or are you going to give magnesium? And Ginny ends the blog about saying the diuretics that are given to the elderly for their supposed high blood pressure, that drug is causing magnesium deficiency as well as potassium deficiency. But they tell you to replace potassium with your oranges and bananas, but not to replace magnesium. And I don't know if I blogged about this yet, about the new guidelines by the American Heart Association and the College of Cardiology are saying that high blood pressure is now 130 over 80 and not the 140 over 90. Yeah, maybe it hasn't come out yet, but you'll read it soon at drcarolyndean.com or in your email. These august bodies have decided to diagnose half of the American population with high blood pressure by the flick of a pen, by saying, well, we used to think high blood pressure was 140/90. Now it's 130/80. And why did they say that? Because they're not, quote, curing high blood pressure. They give the drugs, it gets worse. Why does it get worse? Because they're creating more magnesium deficiency. And in the elderly, you have to assume that they do have a level of rigidity in their arteries caused by calcification. If they're not on Remag, they're not dissolving their calcification. So in order to get the blood up to their brain, they need a little higher blood pressure. And if you force an elderly's blood pressure down to 130/80, they could become dizzy. And what's the biggest cause of hip fractures is being dizzy and falling over and cracking your hip. And, of course, the cracked, brittle hips are due to magnesium deficiency because you need that magnesium to make strong, unbrittle bones instead of just plying the elderly with lots and lots of calcium. I mean, there's so much to be said here. So the blog questions we got, they were all over the map. Your message is good and clear warning, but how do you get it across to elders? My poor mother responded that I was a quack, and my dear brother, honors Bachelor of Science, says he's sure his doctor knows what's best and carries on taking rat poison for his AFib. So give her the Remag lotion. Don't even have to tell her it's magnesium, and see what happens. We have a lot of people doing that with their elderly folks. Susanna's doing that with her mom, for example, and says, yeah, her arthritic fingers are straightening out. You know, it's incredible what magnesium can do when a person has magnesium deficiency. And let me be clear, we're not treating diseases. We're treating people who have been suffering magnesium deficiency and misdiagnosed and put on drugs for what is really magnesium deficiency. Someone writes, my husband, 69 years old, takes no regular meds, in good health, came down with shingles 3 weeks ago. The blisters are gone, but he has residual pain from his back down his right leg. It's definitely nerve pain and behaves like sciatica. He's done acupuncture, has short-term relief, very difficult time sleeping. Do you think Remag would help him? Well, I would just slather the Remag lotion on. Take it orally as well. It really does help in a magnesium deficient person who has nerve pain. Before the Remag lotion and the Remag, I used to tell people to put on vitamin E oil and all kinds of different anti-inflammatories, but the Remag is the best anti-inflammatory. And the next blog question, I have high blood pressure. I'm on a diuretic. I do take extra magnesium. My doctor has never mentioned magnesium. My sister is the one who had me start taking it, and a mineral supplement of yours. That must be the Remite. It looks like I may have thyroid problems most of my life. Every time they tested me for it, it did not show up, even though I have so many symptoms. I don't know what the question is. I would definitely get on the Remag as well as the Remite. The Remite is supportive in its 9 minerals, supportive of the thyroid. And it'll take time. It's going to take months. The diuretic, yes, that's going to keep taking down your minerals, and hopefully you can wean off it under your doctor's supervision. Blog question, 85-year-old mother, COPD, that's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, wondering if magnesium will help. She takes Natural Calm every night. I'm not sure if it's helping. as much as another type of magnesium would. I guess this person doesn't know that we do have the Remag Magnesium, and yes, it's 100% absorbed. You know what I do for COPD? And I put the Remag lotion all over the chest and help that area to relax. See, what happens when someone has a chronic cough from COPD is they start to wheeze up. The cough causes tightening of the bronchioles, which then causes the mucus to block, which then causes worsening of the COPD, where you're not getting enough oxygen into your lungs. So the magnesium will help relax that. Getting on a yeast diet will help the mucus, decrease the mucus. Those are the things that I'd recommend. And certainly our yeast protocol, we'll go into all the total body reset that's involved there. Testimonial. Wow. Thank you. My husband has had some very serious health issues the past year. Stage 4 kidney failure and ventricular tachycardia. He has had 2 ablations, which were considered unsuccessful. Spent well over 3 months in our local CCU, improving some and then discharged, and then having to return numerous times. With his blood so out of balance, it was killing him. He was not able to handle the extremely powerful medications the doctors believed he needed. My husband lost approximately 40 pounds, having suffered constant nausea and serious delirium. After months of this, he made the decision to sign a DNR, do not resuscitate, and have his defibrillator turned off. Quality of life became much more important than just existing. August of this year, he was looking forward to returning home again when his heart started once again to speed up. This time we knew there were to be no more heroic measures. He said if he was going to die, he wanted it to happen at home. The cardiologist told him they would send him home in an ambulance, but we're not certain he would get home before he died. Well, he did make it home, and on the following day he stopped taking every medication he had been prescribed. Instead of dying, his kidney function improved substantially, although bit by bit his heart rate would climb to about 105. Bit by bit, his blood pressure would also climb, and that was when I Googled, how can blood pressure be lowered quickly and naturally? I gave him a small amount of calm and discovered that it did the trick. After that, I discovered Dr. Dean's book, Miracle of Magnesium. Her book gave us so much hope. I love that word, hope. I ordered the Remag. Remag started him on right away. His blood pressure and heart rate improved a little at a time. I couldn't wait to get him on the regular higher dose. He's now taking 2.5 teaspoons of Remag each day. We have noticed great improvement in his blood pressure, and his heart rate is in the 80s mostly. When he was sent home from hospital, he was sent home to die. They said it would happen at any minute. I believe we are now enjoying day 93 since he was discharged. Hallelujah. Okay, I can't read anymore. Put in the yay button, Ginny.
I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here with my mouth hanging open, stunned. Oh, yeah. My God. That's crazy.
I know.
Holy cow. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How many elderly people is this happening to? How many people's spouses is this happening to? I mean, this is just... Oh.
Yeah,
well, wait a minute. I mean, thank goodness gracious for us.
I know it. I know it.
Oh, my God. Carolyn, that's nuts. Oh, my gosh, that poor person.
And
oh, my gosh.
She said, I don't know if she said his age. No, she didn't. Yeah.
That must be Bob.
Oh. But stage 4 kidney failure and the tachycardia and on all the meds and resuscitating and obviously he suffers magnesium deficiency, which they never once tested for, never once treated. And I know when I say all these things, I know we have in our possession the most important magnesium, the Remag, because we made it that way. We made it strong and powerful, and we did make it so that it's, kind of medicinal in a way, although we're not allowed to say that. But, we wouldn't want to see Remag being sold by non-doctors because it is very powerful. And day in and day out with our more than half a dozen customer service people, we have to remind people this is very powerful. Take it slow and easy, and people are doing it, and here we are, day 96 of someone who should have died on day 1. I mean, it's just incredible, and we're just so thankful that we're able to help. And the next person, my 93-year-old father has diastolic heart failure. No, diastolic, the blood pressure is systolic and diastolic. Diastolic is where the heart itself is not pushing hard enough. And, he has an ejection fraction of 50. Now, that's not, we've seen a lot more horrible. Ejection fraction of 60 is more normal, so that's not too bad. Historically high blood pressure with foot and ankle edema. He has refused all medications, bully for him. I moved in with him a year ago and changed his diet, which brought his blood pressure under control almost immediately. Very good. After his most recent hospitalization, released November 1, he ended up on drugs, spironolactone and torsemide. Spironolactone is a super-duper diuretic, but it's supposed to spare potassium, but it does not spare magnesium, unfortunately. So he's becoming more magnesium deficient. The torsemide is a second diuretic, for Pete's sakes. I don't know it that well, but here he's on 2 diuretics, probably being told to lower his food intake, probably being told to stay away from sodium. So personally, I'd be doing the sea salt water routine to get the minerals back. I have him on oral magnesium, Jigsaw, and Remag in his drinking water. I rub Remag lotion and Ancient Minerals lotion all over his body every morning and night. We soak his feet a few times a week in magnesium flakes and oil. I give him boron and various minerals like concentrates and bromide. Now, here's what she says next. Basically, we're doing Morley Robbins' root cause protocol. I'm nervous about overloading him with potassium, as the spironolactone is a potassium-sparing drug. I'm awaiting his most recent blood work now. Yeah, so I do want to comment on this, and I'll do it in a minute, but the potassium that Robbins recommends is cream of tartar in orange juice, and we have no idea how much potassium is being given. And Morley Robbins is not a doctor, and he's telling people to do these things, not realizing, well, they could be on these different drugs. And it's scary to her, and it's scary to me. The daughter continues, my goal is not merely to keep him mineralized in the face of these diuretics, but to get him off them by strengthening his heart to the point where he can deal with his fluids without drugs. So, basically, I would be saying to read my Remite Recalcium, Remag books a little more. Go on the sea salted water to get those salts in there. The extra boron you wouldn't need if you're on Remite. Just be careful of too much mineralization. It's a real concern when people don't realize that Remag and Remite are so well absorbed that they don't have to overdo it. And one of the reasons I want to address what Morley Robbins is doing is from a different sidebar here. I listened to an interview this weekend, but Rhonda Patrick, PhD, was interviewing Tim Ferriss, who's like a well-known biohacker. millionaire biohacker who got Lyme disease, and now in fixing himself, he thinks he's an expert. And what happens when you get these younger people who are biohacking is they don't have a history. They haven't been doing this for decades. They don't know where all the bodies are lying. And in one sense, they're after health. They're really into extreme sports. In terms of the history of sports, I mean, there was no history of sports. When going back to when I was first in practice in the late 70s, we did some team sports, and that was it. Women were more interested in, I guess we'd say there was the revolution, the women's revolution. I don't even know what it was called, but women wanted to be men and be women at the same time. And I know there's a balance that can be created, but what I saw was women wanting to have a full-time job and have kids, and they had to take care of their husband or partner as well. So they burnt out, and they got chronic fatigue and then fibromyalgia. And the exercise, I mean, I saw that not really starting in a big way until maybe the late 80s. There was gyms turning up on every block. I started to go. I pumped up. I was bench pressing what I thought was my body weight. My neck got so big it was a couple inches bigger, and I couldn't do up neck buttons. I mean, I was into it, of course. But the jogging didn't even start then. And I think what happened is the way young people used to go to Europe and travel around. I know I traveled around Europe. That was the adventure. And then when Europe kind of shut down for a while, got a little bit dangerous, I think people got into extreme sports. So you get Tim and Rhonda talking about that. Tim's there chugging away at his turmeric because he feels all inflamed because he damaged himself doing parkour exercises, and he's been off exercises for over a month. He said, I'm looking up parkour. And these are crazy ultimate workout exercises. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not CrossFit, but they don't even really give me a measure of it. It's just doing tons and tons of push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups and jumping crazily like a monkey. So he damaged his ankle, knee, and hip. And this is who the young people are supposed to be following now. Tim Ferriss did parkour, so I will too. And then they damaged themselves. And then in the interview, he's talking about taking vasopressin. It's a pituitary hormone that promotes retention of water by the kidneys, increases your blood pressure, and may have some effects on short-term memory. So Tim's taking it to help his memory. No mention of magnesium and how it's for brain plasticity. They mentioned some study with prairie voles on vasopressin. And actually one of the books I'm reading about obesity, Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, he says he wishes people would just give up on these animal studies because most of the time they don't really mean a thing to humans. But what happens, and they describe this later on in their interview, they create a theory and try to find a study that validates their theory. And then they think, that's it. Everything is validated. I can do whatever. But within the interview, and I guess you just Google Tim Ferriss and Rhonda Patrick, and find the iPod interview. But they talked about, Tim says, I do carb loading. I'll eat a pound cake one day, and then I'll burn it off the next day. So they're absolutely just being so kind of programming of their body in a very mechanical way. Bob would say that, that's their chip body. Their chip body is trying to program their chemical body without a clue to the downside or downstream effects. If you eat a whole cake, you're going to affect your yeast overgrowth. Also, no mention in the interview of yeast overgrowth. Talking about the biomarkers that he follows, and nothing said about the fact that these labs are usually inappropriate. They're based on a sick population. Magnesium isn't even tested for. That's why everybody's ignoring it. And then on and on and on. They talk a lot about inflammation, and yes, refined carbs lead to inflammation, but then they have this huge dialogue about, well, inflammation is good, we need some to stimulate the body. And this is the excess of people who are doing shock therapies, like going from a sauna to an ice-cold bath, or just sitting out in the snow, or extreme fasting, where they try to shock the body into, revving itself up. But in the population that end up coming to us, you can't do that. You really can't be shocking your body. So it went on and on and on.
Hey, Carol?
Yeah, Bob.
The beginning of that, when the chip body started to take over, so the chemical body became a ghetto and everybody thought it was inadequate, so they started pumping it up 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. You know what they called that sport? Being a jackass.
Oh,
so
right.
You can say the jackass phenomenon has been squared by biohacking. More jackass.
Yeah, the jackass people who would see how far they could push their bodies. And
they'd stick cucumbers up their anus and things.
Okay, enough. Well, you just quit it.
Well, no, I'm just illustrating what happened.
I know,
I
but
didn't do it.
Stop.
I did not do it.
So after that, I get a couple of emails, like the one above about...
After what?
After I listened to this video. Mute yourself, Bob. I'm serious. So after this video, a couple of emails came through from customer service, like the one with the concern about doing this potassium ramping that Robin suggested. So I went back to old correspondence with Robbins. Now, what he says is his research on magnesium began in earnest in 2009 by reading Dr. Carolyn Dean's wonderful book, The Magnesium Miracle. And then he says, in 2012, I was convinced magnesium was the answer, and I started his forum, Magnesium Advocacy Group. Now, I was on the group until I got kind of kicked off it because people said, well, she's got a product and she shouldn't be on here. It's advertising. And Morley did not object. And then he says, I then began coaching clients. Now, he's a 30-year hospital administrator who decided that he wanted to, quote, help people. But I really think he brought a lot of his hospital kind of brashness and ego with him. And he says he went to hair tissue mineral analysis, which I really don't trust. It was then, he said, I realized that when some folks began magnesium supplementation, their magnesium RBC blood test never seemed to go up. So instead of talking to me, who he says I'm his mentor, and finding out that I created the Remag, which he obviously knows about, instead of using Remag, which will allow your magnesium RBC to come up because it does get right into the cells. So he ignored that. He ignored the information. And he said, so I kept reading the scientific literature. And he says, that's how I discovered the role of copper and iron. And the role of copper and iron how copper and iron play a role in magnesium and calcium regulation, and that a dysregulation can be tied through scientific literature to pretty much everything. Now, when I corresponded with Morley a couple of years ago about his attack on magnesium citrate, specifically Natural Calm, I told him that if he considered me a mentor, why hasn't he worked with my 100% absorbed Remag? Because people on Remag, as I said, find their magnesium RBC level rises. I also explained to him that the Total Body Reset protocol covers everything he talks about in his root cause protocol, and why doesn't he mention that? He never responded. And, basically what Morley's doing is he gives a dozen things to stop, and a lot of it, I'm aware of and I recommend as well. He's saying to stop vitamin D only supplements. And we don't say that. We say you need some vitamin D, and I recommend the Blue Ice Royal. He says to stop calcium. We do recommend to stop calcium, except if people don't have enough in their diet, they need the Recalcia. Stop iron supplements. Well, everybody knows that adults don't need iron unless there's a blood loss, etc. So that's natural. Our products don't go anywhere near iron. He says stop ascorbic acid because it disrupts the copper ceruloplasmin bond. And periodically, ascorbic acid is okay, especially to help break down glucose, but we do recommend the food-based vitamin C. Stop high fructose corn syrup and synthetic sugars, of course. Stop a low-fat diet. And I would agree with that. I guess it's just this attitude of you have to stop all your D, all your calcium. And we get these people who, in customer service, will say, well, you recommend vitamin D. Morley says no vitamin D. So it's this it's a kind of tyrannical rule here where Morley, not being a medical doctor, I don't know what training he's had, but I see he's actually teaching very expensive courses in mineral supplementation, which is interesting. I don't know what his qualifications are. Stop using Healthy Heart omega-6 oils. Of course, people should not be using those and be using the olive oil and coconut oil, sesame oils. Stop using fluoride, of course. Stop taking drugstore multis. Yes, they're usually all synthetic. And he says stop using citrate. And I don't know why Natural Calm hasn't sued him, but maybe he doesn't have that much influence. Stop using colloidal silver. It lowers copper. So it's very much focused on this copper imbalance. Copper at high levels is toxic. A lot of people have copper overload, but you still do need some copper, and you have to support your ceruloplasmin. I'm aware of all that. We've known about all these things for decades in the whole naturopathic world. And he does say to take magnesium. He does not recommend Remag, but everything else. And he says to start taking the adrenal cocktail, 4 ounces of fresh orange juice, a quarter teaspoon of cream of tartar, a quarter teaspoon of sea salt, twice a day. Don't agree with the orange juice because of so many of our people have yeast overgrowth. Don't agree with the cream of tartar because you have no idea how much potassium you're giving a person who may be on drugs where any rise in potassium is not recommended. He says to start cod liver oil, whereas I say to use the fermented cod liver oil and blue iced royal. He does say to use whole food vitamin C, and then a number of supplements, bee pollen, to which people can be allergic, recommends rice bran, eating beef liver, which is a good idea as well. But this is where we recommend our methylated B vitamin product, Realign. It says to use diatomaceous earth. Well, I recommend that for parasites. It says to use boron. We have that in our Remite. It says to use taurine. We have in our Realign. It says to use ancestral diet, high fat, protein, low carb. I'm agreeing with that more and more. And start iodine, which I don't agree with starting iodine per se. He doesn't give an amount, but our Remite has the RDA of iodine, which is safe. And he talks about chlorinated water. Try to avoid that. Take high dose. Well, I think he's saying to avoid high dose zinc. Yes, our Remite has good balance of zinc and copper, higher zinc than copper. And I guess that's about it. So my concern is someone sees this list, it's just too much. There's too many, directives. And because I've been at this for decades, I know what Morley is saying, but I'm saying you could do it a lot easier. You can just take the complement formulas. You can study every word I've written about them so you understand what I'm talking about. And, it would stop us getting all these calls and emails from people who say, well, and I see it on the Internet too. I tried Morley's protocol and, it didn't really seem to help. And this is what a lot of these biohacker types say. Tim Ferriss and Rhonda Patrick said it. Well, I take all these things. I don't really notice a difference. And what in the heck does that mean? Why are they taking things if they don't think that they're helping? Well, it means they're just treating the theory. They have a theory about their health, and they'll just use whatever seems to come up in the literature that validates their theory. And it's very frustrating because we're trying to reach younger and younger people with our information and not let them go through this biohacking, extreme sports, eating a cake one day. Tim also said he was on an alcohol binge the night before, so he was recovering from that. So, what kind of example are these people giving unless it's an example of, eat, drink, and be merry and take a bunch of supplements and you'll be fine. But I don't want to wait for 20 years for this whole group of people to start coming to me and say, gosh, I wish I'd realized that I could have saturated myself with magnesium 20 years ago, and I would have been a lot better.
Jackasses. Hey, Carolyn.
Wait a minute.
When did Morley put out his statement? Is this a new statement from Morley?
That's his protocol that he has all his followers taking.
When did he announce that? Is this new information or something you've known for a year or two?
I've known for a couple of years.
Oh, you just finally get around to addressing it.
Yeah, I don't like to, it's like gossip, but it just gets overwhelming when people are being led astray. And I'm sure he's helping people, by default, but he's not a doctor. So you don't have this first do no harm uppermost in your mind. I know when I referred people for his hair analysis, it didn't change anything, especially when you just use dirt minerals to try to manipulate your hair analysis. The dirt minerals aren't absorbed. So if anyone's going to manipulate their minerals, they really do have to use Remag and Remite and sea salted water. Yes, Ginny.
Sorry, Ginny.
That's all right. Carolyn, I'm going to pull a Bob. You know how Bob always says this. Carolyn, and then he tells you something. Okay, Carolyn, listen to this.
Yeah.
Instead of biohacking, let's call it bioquacking because that's really good. It's bioquacking. I can't imagine anybody telling people they're on there as some kind of an expert. And they're telling people to binge on a whole cake and then have alcohol and then just do this. It's so irresponsible. And what you said is so accurate. They're not doctors. They didn't study, and they don't have that thing in the core of their being that, that election, so to speak, that calling to that level of service. I mean, you're in service to people with what you're doing. And you're not just, and I loved, Carolyn sent me a summary of the show, and it said, these are the points we talked about, and the very last point was Tim's future movie script or playwright or something. I mean, just these people, what are they doing? It's too much.
Biojacking. Back up for bioquacking is biojacking to get the jackass element in there.
Oh.
That's right. Biojacking.
Do you know that McLuhan said this back in the 50s, that with television, people were turning their bodies into hydraulic jacks?
Mm.
So the beginning of the body, I call it the ghettoization of the body, being this extraneous thing that interrupts people. People start bashing it around because it's expendable, they think, when they're in this electrified state.
Yeah. And I do have to start talking about Bob's 4 bodies and the chip body. I've got a blog coming out on that as well, because it's the only thing that really explains why people are being so crazy and why they think their body's so malleable.
Well, and another thing about the biojacker quackers is that they don't have any accountability. There's nobody holding him accountable for the words that are coming out of his mouth. There's no FDA on his case. There's none of his audience is intelligent enough probably to hold him accountable to his words and what he's suggesting or recommending to people. And the other thing is, because of the chip body, everybody is uniquely fortified to say whatever the freak they want. And they have no, like I said, no consequence. And somebody will hear that recording, 3 years from now and eat a whole cake and have a heart attack from it. And he'll be none the wiser. It's so irresponsible. It's so irresponsible. It's just gross.
I hope someone who's out there knows who he is. Send him the last 15 minutes by Carolyn.
Well, we don't care about that, Bob, so just back off. I'm not trying to create a big fight, but I would like to have an interaction.
Right,
okay.
Correct, yeah.
We have a few more.
Now, let me just read you some emails, Carol, things off the chat line. Sure. First of all, Barbara's typing in and saying, I've been taking colloidal silver for 2 weeks for a URI. I think that's urinary tract infection, maybe. Does Dr. Dean advise against silver? I am also using garlic, oregano oil, and golden seal. I take all the complement formulas already.
Well, we have recommended colloidal silver, and you use it like antibiotic, a natural antibiotic. I know, this is the thing. Morley says, don't take silver. It's not good for you. But the fact of the matter is you need something for an infection. It's better than taking an antibiotic. So that's why I recommend it. Of course, taking silver every day is not recommended. Now, what he says is that it lowers copper status in the body. Now, how do we know that? He probably read a study or on the mineral wheel. There's a mineral wheel where the arrows point to what mineral will enhance another mineral or decrease it, increase or decrease. So it's probably something like that, and your body can overcome that. You take your Remite. It has some copper, so a couple weeks of silver is not going to hurt. And it's these proscriptions against these things that drives us crazy at customer service, because people, they mistake Morley for a doctor. He is not. And they take his word as gospel. And he's just... If someone thinks magnesium is the end-all and be-all, and then a couple of years later decides, oh, no, it's copper. Copper's the problem. And then a couple of years later, oh, no, it's iron. I mean, that is not staying on track. And the fact that he wouldn't even acknowledge that Remag, and if he's saying he started the Magnesium Advocacy 2012, that's when Remag came out. That's when they kicked me off the website. So
well, and also let's say before they kicked, let's also just say before, for the record, since we're laying all this out, before they quote unquote kicked you out, it was because you also had such a strong objection to these folks who were on this advocacy group, all their own little experts. all these, little ad hoc people on there. And somebody would type in and say, Dr. Dean. Now, you're addressing a doctor. Dr. Dean, I have this question. And then Dr. Dean would answer the question. And then Joe Q ad hoc person would get on and argue incessantly with Carolyn about some minutia or point that they didn't even get the point of her answer. And they just want to be right about what they think they know. And when you get on that magnesium group, not only do you get Morley's jacked up protocol, but you get everybody's wacky advice. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible, that thing. I'm surprised somebody hasn't come in and shut it down. I can't imagine it's doing more harm than good. But the point is, so you are getting so frustrated because you're like, look, people, I've written a book. I am the expert. I am a doctor. I know what I'm talking about. And I've got these people on here who just want to confront me at every turn and have me defend all these things. It was a gigantic waste of your time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, golly. Hundreds of emails a day from the Facebook page. Yeah. So, and it's ripe for quackbusters. You don't know who's on there, who's just stirring up and aggravating things. And, at a certain point, I just realized all they wanted was a cheap magnesium. And that's when they got into magnesium bicarb. Now, when you take bicarb, it is a drug. It'll shift your pH and not in a good way. But there'd be these sort of fads that would ripple through the forum, and there was nothing I could do to try to stop them. And then especially when I had my own product. Oh, you're just trying to sell your own product. Well, look, we live in a capitalistic world. I happen to have a product that works. So, and I didn't even talk about it on the forum. But anyway, yeah, we've gotten it out of our systems, and we can just say that I'm fasting today, so it had to come out.
Okay, well, I'm glad you got all that poison out of your system. Now, Marv types in this. She says, hey, Ginny, I was just listening to the testimonial read by Dr. Dean. That's about the man who was so messed up in the hospital, and I began to cry. I do not believe that so many people who are experiencing these wonderful products already realizing how blessed we are for the genuineness, loving, and caring woman who is so caring for the whole world of men and women who are so thankful. I am on Remag and Remite, and I will never stop telling my friends and family of the healing benefits that we've all achieved. 1 million thanks to Dr. Dean. Bless her heart. No.
She's thanking you too, Jimmy. She's thanking you. She says, how blessed we are for the geniusness, loving and caring women, plural, who is so caring for the whole world of men and women. So you're included, Ginny.
Not Bob, though.
I'm not.
Frank.
Murph, but he liked me. He called me the life of the party earlier, Carolyn.
Okay.
But maybe he's changed his mind since then.
Yeah, Frank loves Bob, though, so he's got his props on him. Now, also, Marv typed in and said, I wanted to see if I could read without my glasses, and yes, I can, since I've been on my Remag and Remite. Hallelujah. Very good. And also realign, because it's got taurine in it. It's very good for you. So
That's
excellent.
Marv
okay. That's Marv, yeah. And then John typed in and said, for a dog with inflammation and compromised immunity, how much magnesium should it take? Should they give their dog? And, John, we really can't answer that. If you can discuss it with your vet. But if not, I will put it out to the audience and let them get in with their little ad hoc information about what they do with their pets.
You know what we used to say to people, Ginny, is look up the RDA or the DV or whatever for magnesium in animals and just give them that. That's perfectly legitimate.
Yes, they have it for horses. They have that for horses, but they don't have it for dogs and cats.
Oh.
So Carolyn, the amateurs can get on there and be ridiculous. And you, as a doctor, are the one vulnerable. You're the one who can get sued and all that.
Yes.
That's what's ridiculous here. Yeah. The experts are borderline nuts, and the amateurs are democratically inflated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the times, they are changing. Well, we're up to the top of the hour. I really talked my way through that one. Thank you very much for listening, everybody.
Yep. Okay, so very good. We are going to come back in this next hour. And also, I did type in how much is too much magnesium for dogs. So maybe that's a better way to go through and look for it and see if you can get a response that way on how to, for pets, how much is too much for dogs. Our product is very strong. Let me just say one drop is 2.5 milligrams of 60,000 parts per million concentration of magnesium. So I just put a couple drops in a gallon of water. It's very strong. So just, be careful that way. Okay, we'll be back, everybody. Hour 2, Dr. Dean got it out of her system, and now we're going to rock it with phone calls and mailbag in this next hour. We'll be right back, everybody.
We'll be back with Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, along with host Ginny Gunther, after this brief station break. You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
AchieveRadio.com. What a beautiful day to be alive. My debt is paid and more money arrives. The fridge is full and there's plenty of ice for a fireside.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This.
What a beautiful day to be alive. My debt is paid and more money arrives. The fridge is full and there's plenty of ice for a fireside chat with anyone I like. What a beautiful day, good to be here, when almost everyone has disappeared. When almost everyone is waiting in line, it's good to meet you in this world of mine.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. And yes, it is a wonderful day to be alive. It's absolutely fantastic to be here in the physical, hanging out, cruising with Dr. Dean and Bob, and non-physical, and everybody who's on the chat line and in our listening audience. We're just happy to have you along. Let's see. What we need to do now probably is take some phone calls. 602-666-6027 is the number to call. If you'd like to talk to Dr. Dean, then your next step once you get in on the phone is to actually hit *5 on your keypad. *5 will raise your hand and let us know you have a question or comment, and then we'll put you on the line with Dr. Dean. And if you don't hit the *5, then your phone stays on mute, and I can't tell that you're here to talk to her, and then nothing happens, and that would be very sad. So let's hit *5 on your keypad if you're interested in talking with Dr. Dean. And let's see, we don't have anybody who's done that yet, but we've got new callers, so I think they're probably just trying to figure it out. There we go. Okay, very good. I knew there was something going on. So let's take some phone calls, Carolyn, and then we'll do our mailbag and press on with the show this evening. How's that sound?
Very good. Go ahead.
Okay. Area code 973, the great state of New Jersey. You're on the line with Dr. Dean. If you could give us your name and then state your question or comment.
Hello, this is Sylvia Kramer. I spoke to you last week. I have giant cell arteritis, and you discussed Remag lotion to put on my forehead and face and cheeks since I had headaches. And I just got it today. I'm sorry, and I started to use it. Anything else I should know about that?
What you do, Sylvia, is you put on a thin layer, but then an hour or so later put some more on. You can really layer it up, and I had a whole body massage the other day, and I brought my Remag lotion with me and slathered me head to foot. And I didn't even feel that I needed to shower it off. It was that well absorbed. So just go ahead and layer it on, 3, 4, 5 times a day, and let us know next week how it works.
Oh, I will. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to know also if there's any connection between that disease and a backache. I'm suffering outrageous pain in my back.
Well, let me just look it up. Giant cell arteritis, it's inflammation of the lining of the arteries.
Right.
It mostly affects arteries in your head, but I suppose the inflammation can be other places. I hadn't thought of that. But if you can squiggle your fingers around to rub some in the back, in the area of your back that hurts, that would be helpful. We've had a lot of people say that it helps. And, I'm not finding low back pain, as presenting manifestation of giant cell arteritis. So, and the way they talk about it being an inflammation, then we know that magnesium deficiency causes inflammation. So, basically just treating your magnesium deficiency.
Okay, I'll try it that way. I want also to tell you that I go to a rheumatologist who's been taking care of me, and when I asked her if I needed more magnesium, she said, no, that's not important.
I know.
So I'm going off in my Carolyn direction.
Right, you're a rebel. You're a rebel for your own cause. That's what you are.
I have only one body.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, Sylvia, we'll hear from you next week then, okay?
Yes. And one other thing, I started to take Himalayan salt and water. It makes me very nauseous.
Well, just start with a pinch, just a speck, because you have to get your body used to it. If you go right for the quarter teaspoon, sometimes it's too much. You'll see just starting real slow, and your body will then crave it.
That makes sense. And my last comment is I'm also told to give myself a shot of Actemra to try to get me off of steroids.
Right. Spell that. I don't know it offhand.
Actemra. Actemra. And it's a shot.
Right. What is it? Oh, it's for rheumatoid.
Right.
Interleukin. Oh, they're affecting the interleukin. I see. They want to substitute that so that they can get you off the prednisone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know enough about it to give you an opinion, and, I can't tell you what to do, but, what you do is look up the side effects. You really do have to look up the side effects and then say, well, do I want to shift these side effects for the side effects of prednisone? It's bound to have side effects. I see a whole list of it right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry I can't.
That's okay, and I thank you for your information. I love your program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thanks, Sylvia. Bye-bye.
All right, good night.
Ginny's busy on the chat line.
No, I'm busy announcing everything with my phone on mute. 602-666-6027 is the number to call if you want to talk to Dr. Dean tonight and have the great benefit and privilege to talk to her. It's always so therapeutic and wonderful. Let's see. Frank typed in and said, according to Dr. Jamie, magnesium dose for dogs is 12.3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Does that sound right?
Well,
a kilogram.
A kilogram, 2.2 pounds.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that might do. I mean, it's what I would do is compare it to the horses too.
Yeah.
So you get a 5-pound dog, that's 60 milligrams. It does sound like a lot. I mean,
it sounds like a lot.
It does. I would go. I'd slowly go up because a lot of the dosing is done on magnesiums that are only 4 to 20% of absorbed. Mm-hmm. So you have to go careful because you're going to get good absorption with this. And, it's not going to harm your dog, but you do not want your dog having the laxative effect all over your kitchen floor.
Correct. Or worse than that, some other place in your house, like your bedroom where my dogs sleep.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So I use Remag with my dogs, and I definitely use it topically, but I use teeny amounts to avoid that outcome. So, yeah. All right, very good. But thank you, Frank. Frank's on it. Frank's on the chat line, taking care of things. My secretary, I'll have to send some kind of compensation pretty soon. All right. 602-666-6027 if anybody is wanting to talk to Dr. Dean. Otherwise, we press on with our busy agenda of other things to do. Carolyn.
I have mailbag. What are you asking me? Sorry.
Mailbag. Yeah, it's mailbag.
Okay, yes, the fasting is kicking in. No, actually, I was reading my email. Okay. I had the cardiac calcification scan. This is a woman. I was fighting not to get it, but my doctor was insistent, and it's 300. Now, zero is supposed to be normal, but we've had people who've told us it's gone up, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Let me just look up calcium. It's a cardiac calcium score. And the score range, calcium score, coronary calcium score, 11 to 100, apparently 1 to 10 mild, 11 to 100 definite. So she's got 300. We've had people with higher. But what the doctors will do with that, and you can Google my name and coronary calcium score, and they want to give you statins because they don't have anything to deal with calcification. So I don't know her age, but she says, I'm healthy and active, taking Remag and other supplements, but not from you. My LDL is high, but HDL is also My percentage is 3.3. The cardiac index looks normal. Am I supposed to take meds? I know you can't give me medical opinions, but I need some guidance. Well, there are no meds for a calcium score. And if with statins, it doesn't affect the calcium. Remag does. And a balance of the other supplements. I'd really recommend you just take the whole total body reset to build up your bones with the Remite and the Remag, so that the calcium goes to your bones and doesn't sit in your soft tissues, in your arteries. And the magnesium will help to dissolve the calcium and direct it to your bones and teeth. So I would suggest reading maybe my atrial fibrillation book, where I describe what the heart needs, and also the Remag booklet would be good to read. The Remite Recalcia book. As I was saying earlier, if you listen to the first hour, I really think the balanced approach of the complement formulas that covers just about everything that a person has to deal with. And it's not a matter of just taking Remag as the drug to treat calcium. It's the whole picture. The next question.
Ginny, I just want to say something to Ginny. Ginny, Karen should be the only person allowed to use the Internet.
Oh.
She can correct everything every day.
No.
That's very good, Bob. That's funny. That's great.
Bob. Okay,
great.
Question. I've been taking Remag since March 2017. Started putting it in low-sodium V8 juice to help lower my blood pressure with little results. I take 4 medications for blood pressure, but no diuretic. I also use Remag lotion twice a day, along with 2 teaspoons of Remag, as more had me running to the bathroom. I can't tolerate Remite due to AFib and hypothyroid, and stopped taking that months ago. Any suggestions? I really think you should look at Remite again, read the Remite Recalcia book, read the AFib, supports the thyroid to make hormones. So, some people can take too much Remite in the beginning, and it revs up their thyroid, and then they rev up and get the AFib. But maybe to really look at the 4 medications for blood pressure, because they'll start working against the Remag. We've seen people who've said it wasn't until they started to wean off their medications that they really felt they were getting back in balance. There's something about the side effects of the blood pressure medications that can give you a rebound blood pressure. And, I don't know any of the numbers, little results. Low sodium V8, I wouldn't think that would be a problem, but what else is in that V8? But I would suggest get back to reading the AFib book, the Remite book, and really figure out what's triggering the AFib so that you can control it more. Here's a question about insomnia. Now, this person, it's quite fantastic, actually, and we questioned her on this, and she said, I'm taking 4 tablespoons of Remag. So 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, so that's 900 times 4, 3,600 milligrams of magnesium. This person really has to get tested for magnesium wasting disease. It's a 24-hour urine collection before getting a measured amount of a magnesium IV drip, and then 24-hour collection afterwards to see how much of that magnesium is dumped. So that is number 1. That we can't move forward until that test is gotten, and it can be difficult to find out a doctor to do that test, but that's vital. Ginny, before I go into a long mailbag question or statement here. Are there any chats or phone calls?
Yes, I do have a chat, and let's see, where are we at with this phone call business? 602-666-6027 if you'd like to talk to Dr. Dean tonight, and then hit *5 on your keypad. Now, Barbara is saying, I love your show. I'm about to start IVF, which I guess is an assisted reproductive treatment. I had to ask. And wanted to know if your products can be taken while I'm going through treatment. She'll be taking hormones to stimulate ovulation.
Yes, all the products. I mean, they're your basic low dose magnesium, but it's potent. The minerals support the thyroid. When anyone takes Remag and Remite to their obstetrician, they're told, "Oh yeah, that probably isn't going to do anything. It's such low dose," and then we laugh. And the Realign, the B vitamins, they're all low dose. That's not going to be a problem. Very low dose amino acids, that's not going to be a problem. We don't recommend RNA drops in pregnancy, but you could be taking them pre-pregnancy. Restructure, certainly okay. So they're all good.
Yes, absolutely. And what do we feel, Carolyn, about just in general with Remag and just, relaxing, helping to take away stress and, improve the chances of conception? Can we say anything like that?
We could say that, but we don't know Barb's whole story. I mean, I'm sure she's tried everything, but we don't know how long she's tried Remag. We have had some Remag pregnancies, that's for sure.
Yep. Okay, very good. Just wanted to put that in for you, Barb. Got our fingers crossed. Okay, Belinda said regarding Sovereign Silver. Oh, and by the way, Carolyn, I forgot to tell you that Barbara's the one who's got the upper respiratory infection. It wasn't a UTI; it was a URI, upper respiratory infection. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Belinda, Sovereign Silver. I heard your answer to another question, but I'm asking for clarification. My husband and I have been taking this morning and night daily for a year. I assume that a daily dose is correct. We were using it for oral health. It was recommended by my dentist for ongoing immune support due to dental infections and oral surgeries in the past 2 or 3 years. He gave me no specifics on dosing, but the dentist tells me he uses 5 teaspoons daily in smoothies. Can you clarify how you, Dr. Dean, you would use this product properly?
I don't know the last time I used it. I only use it for infections. That's it. I would not, personally, I would not use it every day. Your dentist, he probably read about it, thinks it's wonderful. The information Morley's giving, maybe he knows it from the hair analysis that people who take a lot of silver, they bump down their copper. I don't know that for a fact, but that may be what Morley's getting at. I personally would use oil pulling in my mouth if I had infections and gum problems. I think you could email Ginny, support@rnareset.com, and she'll give you our oil pulling module so you can read that.
Yep, wonderful. We will do that. Yep, absolutely. We will definitely do that. Okay, excellent. Anyone wanting to chat with Dr. Dean, *5 on the keypad tonight. Everybody is just calmly listening to you dispense your words of wisdom, Dr. Dean, so nobody's wanting to chit-chat right at this second. If you want to press on with the mailbag, that would be wonderful.
Okay, great. Now, last week we heard from CB, Carolyn, who she was featured in my AFib book. And, at the time, Scott, her husband, was on the call because she was lying down, doing lying down therapy. She had a new grandchild, up late, stressed, etc. And they wondered, why is this happening? So we talked about that. And then I got an email yesterday that she started to be in AFib, blood pressure was low, 86/58, heart rate 82, usually in the 60s. Quite miserable and discouraged. So, I mean, that's the thing with people who have AFib. They just don't want to see it come back, and they think, oh, what they've done is, they've lost it. But, so I said, I guess from Monday's conversation on the show, we could say that Carolyn might have been headed for an episode with all the extra stress. And, of course, I can't tell you from this distance what to do medically. If you think she needs to go to the hospital to get checked out, be sure and do that. I never like people to think that they're waiting on my, answer about something where I've never even met Carolyn physically. And then I said, then you can think about adding more Remag, lying down for sure, hydration, and what else? And okay, then I sent some first aid measures for AFib that I found online that seemed appropriate. And they got back to me today and said, it sort of brought me up. Low sodium D8 really helped. Very glad to receive your email, etc. Back in sinus rhythm. Okay. And so she said, what had happened? Listen to this, Ginny. One big change I made in October 2017, right before the 4 major AFibs came back into the picture, was that I switched over to a keto zone diet. That is when I first started having the AFibs. Do you have any input on the keto diet? Now, I kind of, slightly sarcastically wrote back, and I'll get to that, just Google my name and keto diet and see what I say, because the keto diet has been known to throw your electrolytes out of balance and utilize magnesium. So that's probably what did it. Then she says, I had been feeling so good for 2 years. I think I started taking too many liberties with the sugar, ice cream, accidental MSG, some caffeine, dark chocolate. Not horrible, but too much for me since I hadn't been indulging much at all for 10 to 12 years. So this is what happens, and that's why I'm reporting it. So, she just sort of didn't stay strict to the protocol. So now she says, going to be strict again, etc. And yes, I say your setback. I guess you didn't read my blog on the keto diet and magnesium depletion. Remember to Google anything new you do and my name, and it's usually covered. So that was very interesting, and that's what people will, periodically they'll something like that will happen, and you can't think that, it's over, it didn't work. Stuff happens, and you really have to either be aware of it, possibly happening, read the AFib book a bit, and I suppose if I do the update, I'll put that update from Carolyn in. I'm going to stop to ask Ginny if she's got anything. Otherwise, I'll continue on the mailbag.
I do think I don't have anything, but I am kind of putting my feet in the customer's shoes, and it's kind of a big fat bummer when you think about the fact that you've got to do all this stuff to dig yourself out of this health hole, and then you can't even have any tea or caffeine or anything, or, people do want to be able to live and enjoy their lives, and especially when you feel good, you think, oh, what can one piece of this be, or whatever. So what do you think about that?
Well, that came up recently with somebody, and when I was a kid, we'd have a treat once a week. We would. Once a week. And then it wasn't until I got my paper route. I was a paper boy girl. And so with my money for my paper route, I'd buy candy.
What about deficient chips? What was that all about?
Oh, I used to make French fries every night after school. But that didn't kill me. we used lard. We used saturated fat, which now, went out of vogue, and now it's back in vogue. But I think people think they need to have a treat every day or have, something sugary every day. And you think of these crazy folks who are drinking the Rockstar and the Red Bull every day with 65 teaspoons of sugar. Now, that's certainly not our population, but I think we really admire sugar so much that we want to eat too much of it. And our body isn't good with it. I mean, what I'm learning about the keto diet and intermittent fasting is it's all about the carbohydrates. If you want your body to burn fat, it won't do that if you're eating carbohydrates or if you have glycogen in your liver. So if you go 5 or 6 hours between meals, then you start burning off your glycogen in your liver, and you exercise your liver by doing that. So your liver gets all happy, and it squishes out the glycogen, gets ready for the next batch. If you keep eating every couple of hours all your life, your glycogen stores are going to kind of build up, and I don't know, I don't think they go rancid or anything, but they may be contributing to this incredible epidemic of fatty liver we have. That, along with the high fructose corn sweetener addiction that people have, it's creating this non-alcoholic fatty liver. So to exercise your livers, we should take a break between meals. Now, the overnight break fast is one way to do it. And then if you extend your fast into the morning, it's only then that you begin fat burning. So the fat then burns off, and that's when you lose weight. And it's been very interesting because I've been experimenting with myself. I mean, since we moved here to Maui, and I've been eating so many carbs in the form of fruit, I've gained weight. And no matter how much I exercise or cut back on calories, as long as I'm eating carbs, I keep either gaining a bit of weight or certainly not cutting back. But as soon as I don't eat any carbs and go, I did the water fast, and now I'm just doing the 2 days a week water fasting, I've lost already 10 pounds.
Right, and I've decided to turn this into a second or 28th honeymoon. So I went on a fast to help Carolyn through her journey. And the surprise is I take the bentonite and the powder and eat this horrible-looking guck. And that makes me have no hunger.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a week and a half, and in between, I'll take a mouthful of Restructure every now and then, just raw powder. Okay, that's my sugar, the sweetness part of the 4 parts of your tongue, right?
Yeah, and it's only got 2 grams of carbs. You're allowed 20 grams of carb a day, so Bob is maintaining his fat burning.
Right, and I really don't feel hungry in between. Have you had the same effect from this gook?
Yeah, when I did the 5-day water fast 2 weeks ago now, I didn't feel hungry at all. Just on the 5th day, because I kept up my walking and my swimming routine, I felt a little spaced out. So I thought, okay, I'll eat. And so what we do, we take our minerals. We make sure we take our minerals. I take all my supplements. I do the bentonite and psyllium seed twice a day with lots of water. And I have been doing coffee enemas, and I'll get Bob doing them too. And
the bentonite and psyllium, that's what would be most disgusting to normal tongue.
Oh,
right?
No, our people, that's on the Yeast Protocol, Bob. So our people know all about psyllium, and people who they have sensitive guts, they'll take the psyllium to bulk up the stool. So why did I get on to that topic?
Okay, well, I want to add to that. I've been doing 200 drops, the RNA drops, a day, 100 twice a day, right? So I'm now doing 400 drops a day. I thought I'd up the ante. First time I've done in 6-7 years. Ginny, just bring you into this, Ginny, and I'm sort of, sailing on that. New intake. How is that, Ginny? Do people take hundreds or thousands of drops? Have we got people up to that level yet?
I think we've got a handful of, Ionettes who would take the drops by, it's a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon. There are people who do take it at that level, but it's a handful, Bob. It's hard to really touch what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Ginny. What do we got?
Well, you did start to talk about the intermittent fasting because we were talking about a email that you were answering. Was that your answer? So you're good?
Keto diet. Yes, you're right. Yeah,
okay.
About the keto diet. If you're doing the keto diet, what they say about the keto diet, oh, yeah, you can get the keto flu, you feel bad for a week or so. Well, that's yeast die-off, for Pete's sakes. Nobody mentions yeast. And, yes, it causes magnesium depletion, throws off your electrolytes. And, yeah, so you take your Remite, and make sure that the water you drink has sea salt in it. And these crazy people, I don't know, they say, well, drink lots of coffee, or you can drink the artificially sweetened beverages so you can stay away from sugar. And they put several tablespoons of coconut oil or MCT oil in their coffee. So they won't give up their coffee, and maybe it's all that coffee drinking that's depleting, causing the diuretic effect that's depleting their magnesium and minerals. So they're really, none of these people are doing anything in a balanced way, and they should all talk to me.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Okay, let's see where we're at. 602-666-6027 is the number to call if you have a question or comment for Dr. Dean tonight. Star 5 on your keypad if you'd like to get through. Otherwise, your phone stays on mute, and we don't know you're there. I don't have any callers in the studio, Carolyn, but we do have some things whipping through the chat. So let's bring you up to speed on that. Christine types in, first of all, Belinda, as a follow-up, Carolyn said, thank you, Dr. Dean. I do oil pulling every day, so I'm on the right track.
And good for her. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Doug typed in and said, I use Neem, N-E-E-M toothpaste to keep my mouth healthy. It's fluoride-free, and from India, it has cleared up the bleeding gums problems for my sister-in-law. So there's a suggestion from our peanut gallery here. And then let's see, Christine types in, hello, does it matter where on your body you put the magnesium cream, for example, if you have heart issues? Thank you.
Heart issues?
H-E-A-R-T, heart issues.
Oh, you could put it on your chest, but you could put it anywhere. It'll be absorbed and affect the body anywhere because it will make its way to the bloodstream.
Okay,
and who was
very good.
asking that question, just so I can keep track on my notes?
Yep, Christine.
Christine. And
yep.
Peanut Gallery, is that our own Doug? We can't call Doug a peanut.
I don't think it's our Doug. It could be our Doug. It could be our very own Doug, in which case we can't call him a peanut. That's right. He's a very important person. He's a beep. He's not a peanut. Leon also said that he loves you.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see, where's everybody at? Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, so
I'll continue on. I've got a testimonial. Just quickly, I just wanted to thank Carolyn for her intelligence, compassion to help us through her research, education, and supplements. I've enjoyed their benefits for about 5 years, starting with the Remag, and I've tried almost all her products. I appreciate the RNA Reset staff as well. Aloha and happy, healthy holidays. Very sweet. Here's a commentary from our Canadian customer who's in her 80s. After reading about the news on on blood pressure. I think she might have sent me the article about the blood pressure being ramped down so that people would take more drugs. Read and weep at the lengths greed will go, and many will fall right in line. Yet in comparison, the lineup for Remag, the best magnesium on the planet, is small because there's no pharma profit margin, no medical support. It keeps away many of the things that pharma loves to treat. Dr. Dean's book, 600 pages long, all on magnesium and its miraculous effects on the body, and also all of the ills that develop when it is missing from the diet. Big Agri knows that soils are deficient in magnesium in this century, and they have the means to add that to the host of other fertilizer elements they already use. But if they did that, they would block so many corporations who thrive on the illness of humanity, not its health. And that is simply not acceptable to them. So we each must look after ourselves. I'm doing the best. By the way, I do have a hospital standard blood pressure cuff, and my average BP is 120/80. I've noticed if I get a high reading that breathing deeply to a count of 10 and then retaking it clears my numbers up. Shallow breathing causes lung constriction. I do believe in a natural result of stressful living, excess concentration, lack of regular movement, and desk posture. I could be wrong, but it works for me. I think she's saying, I do believe, that high blood pressure is a result of stressful living, excess concentration, lack of regular movement, and desk posture. And it's true. It's so true. And, this is from our 82-3-year-old customer who gives us good words every once in a while. And that's a blog she sent out to her list.
Hey, Carol, I have a little survey.
Mm-hmm.
I've been feeling for a couple of years now that I can't die, okay?
Yeah.
And it may be our products. I'm wondering if other people feel this, or do they just feel that they'll live a lot longer than expected? Are they feeling that they can't die? That's the way I feel.
Okay, take a survey on chat, Bob, and let me continue, okay?
Or Ginny might get calls on it.
Okay, so this one, my 14-year-old son has been in severe constant pain since the onset of CRPS, it's reflex dystrophy. They've given it a new name. They keep naming things as people develop. Complex regional pain syndrome, formerly known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy. So he's got horrible pain. He's had it 3.5 years. He's only 14. I had him on Remag, but I don't think he was taking it up. I started to apply topically to get more in his system. Started giving him Restructure 1 to 3 times a day. It's the first protein drink he likes and actually asks for it. I also started giving him Recalcia to strengthen his bone mineral density, which has become an issue since he hasn't walked much from the intense pain. In fact, our lives have been turned upside down. I'm writing to tell you that in the last few weeks he has developed a sense of humor again, something not easy to have when you're not doing so well for so long. I hope this is a sign that the tide is turning. He also told me the other day that he used to hate the taste of the magnesium water concoction I gave him, but now he craves it and can't drink plain water anymore. Thank you. He needs to get better before his childhood is over. And I'm seeing something positive for the first time. Please keep us in your thoughts and keep up the good work. Isn't that awesome? Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That is totally fantastic. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kids and the elderly, it's the everybody's, but, to help a kid with his magnesium deficiency pain is awesome. Remag lotion testimonial. New pump bottles, exclamation. Just when I thought you couldn't improve, the pumps are perfect. This lotion is keeping me walking. My daughter is using it on my grandkids for serene sleep at night, so much better than others. Lighter, more magnesium, no scent, 5-star magnesium delivery. This lotion is ideal for cancer patients, anyone with intestinal issues who doesn't need more magnesium in their body. Thank you so much for producing this lotion. Then I I can go into the blogs. If I've got apparently there's 4 blogs I haven't gone over last week and this week. So, but I'll stop for a second to see if there's any chat or phone calls.
Perfect. No phone calls. Let's keep going.
Yay!
With the blog. Yay!
Talk. I love talk. Okay, so it didn't look like I talked about biohacking, but I mean, it's what is it? Biojacking? Who won that?
Biohacking.
Bioflacking?
Yeah, no, jacking or quacking.
Bioquacking. Oh, I like bioquacking, Bob. I'm sorry. So, yes, bioquacking. How can biohacking work if the hacking tools you use are all wrong? That's right. Biohacking is only as good as the tech and tools used to collect the data. And I remember reading this out, so I must have talked about it last week. But I'll repeat, the serum magnesium test that they don't even use is highly inaccurate. So because electrolyte panels don't have magnesium, these biohackers are doing testing and highly inaccurately thinking that their magnesium is okay, so they're not taking magnesium. And just like Morley Robbins, they're trying to find something else that's wrong. And seriously, people, you can look around the first corner and find a dozen things that could be wrong. And that's what's happening with the genetic people, where they're finding the, MTHFR and whatever else. And even Rhonda Patrick, in the interview that I was critiquing earlier, she said that she got her genetic testing and found out she was at high risk for Alzheimer's disease, and it terrified her. I mean, what are these people thinking? That, now she lives in fear of Alzheimer's, and we'll probably start taking drugs for it at a certain point if some study says this drug is good. So read this biohacking blog at drcarolyndean.com, because what I do toward the end is I say, before you take one more step into the biohacking world, read the following books to understand the giant medical experiment you would be participating in. A book called Overdiagnosed, Making People Sick in Pursuit of Health, Less Medicine, More Health, Worried Sick, A Prescription for Health in an Overtreated America, Selling Sickness, How the World's Biggest Pharmaceutical Companies Are Turning Us All into Patients. Yes, Bob?
Hey, Carolyn, this whole issue about sexual harassment, do you see magnesium deficiency in there, or taking drugs makes people blur their boundaries and forget, I guess, old-fashioned decency?
Well, yeah, the sexual harassment in the woman, if it's a woman or a man that's being sexually harassed, it's a timidity, it's a tension, it's an anxiety, it's a panic, it's a paranoia, all those.
Right, it's a self-conscious tension.
Deficiency.
Self-conscious tension interpersonally.
Yeah.
And then you think you need to do something to resolve it. So magnesium deficiency causes that, eh?
Well, that's an aspect where a tense, self-conscious, paranoid, scared person, if someone approaches them and they're in a boss position, authority position, they're going to think, well, I guess I better do this or I'm going to lose my job. I mean, I've had a ton of patients tell me that story.
So there's a way to get magnesium on the map. You do a blog on sexual
harassment
and magnesium deficiency.
Bob, you do a blog. I'm busy. So
I just did one.
Stop it. So the next blog, Flu Vaccines Don't Work, you really have to read this. This is very important. You can forward this out, tweet it, share it on Facebook, because the study after study shows that it's ineffective, and it shows why it's not effective. The egg-based production of these influenza viruses turns the viruses, mutates them into non-virus. They aren't going to create the infection in the patient they're injected into to create the resistance, to create the antibodies. So anyway, 4 to 6% effectiveness rate. I mean, phew. And I do mention that if you want something that works better, I think I put it in this report, this blog, Acylococcinum. Oh, I don't have it here. Acylococcinum is a boron homeopathic remedy. We call it Ocillo, O-C-I-L-L-O, and it has a 70% effectiveness rate, 70. And that's the type of thing I keep vials on hand. I'll take a dose before I fly in an airplane. And I also put an air cleaner around my neck in the planes. That's how I keep from getting either the placebo effect of it or how I keep from getting infected. This next blog at drcarolyndean.com, heart stents don't work. They've done a study. Gina Colada, New York Times, writes this title, Unbelievable. Heart stents fail to ease chest pain. And I say it's quite a shocker to learn the so-called surgical solution to coronary artery disease is just another dud. Colada follows a lawyer in her article who was actually on the operating table to get stented when his doctor called off the operation. Why? Because the doctor just read the study, and because the patient is a lawyer and could have sued him for malpractice. So this metal or plastic tube inserted into a blood vessel, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose they describe how the study was done. I'm not going to go into that, but the results show it doesn't work. I get then distracted by talking about how stents are just another procedure that is chalked up for doctors to try to improve their status at their job. And I quote a Dr. John Mandrola, who wrote a blog called The Corrosive Force in Medicine. And he says that doing an ablation or catheterization, stent, or valve replacement earns a bunch of relative value units, RVUs, and that's how doctors are graded in their HMO jobs now. Helping patients, making them feel better, or actually, quote, curing them earns no points. It's just these action figures that you do. So anyway, the stents don't work, but even though scientifically they showed that, they will still be done. You will still be offered stents in the hospital because they earn money for the drug companies, or the hospitals, I should say, and the companies that produce the stents. And my last blog of the week was it's called Medieval Medicine. I say I wrote Death by Modern Medicine with the sarcasm evident in the title, but I think it's time that medicine accepted its true nature, medieval medicine. In the midst of writing this blog about the history of medicine, my webmaster asked, why does modern medicine seem so medieval? So it was a perfect title. And I say I think medicine has always been medieval. There's not much we can do to change it except take care of ourselves. What follows is my biased history of medicine. So you can read through that. I guess I'll quickly say it. Got a few minutes. Women intimately connected with the cycles of the moon developed calendars, and with that knowledge became natural leaders. However, men have always feared women's ability to create life, and thus they have tried to control us. 2, men burned women herbalists and midwives at the stake and called them witches when they interfered with the manly art of doctoring, which devolved into giving mercury for syphilis and bloodletting for everything else. 3, edited from Death by Modern Medicine, I say in 1908, a non-medical educational reformer, Abram Flexner, was commissioned by the Carnegie Foundation to assess North American medical schools. Flexner loved German medicine and advised a sharp decrease in the number of medical schools, a reduction in the number of physicians in order to elevate the medical profession to a more elite status, and funding only those schools that adopted German scientific-based laboratory medicine. The Flexner Report was a means by which the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations were able to establish a scientific medical monopoly in North America. You can access that online and read how the allopaths, that meaning the Flexner Report, and how the allopaths worked alongside the wealthy foundation to remove, quote, every rude boy and jaded clerk from the business of medicine. Boom went the eclectic medical schools. Boom went the women's medical schools. Boom went the black medical schools. Number 4, after World War I, the German technology that had created the gas chambers and doctors who performed inhumane experiments on prisoners were imported to the U.S. The killing gases found their way into crop dusters that began contaminating our food. The chemical drugs are still mostly controlled by German pharmaceutical companies and continue to poison us to this day. Number 5, nurses in the 1970s in England still had to rise and give a slight bow to a doctor who came into an examining room. 6, when I went to medical school in the 1970s, all previous medical classes had fewer than 25% females. I was in the first class that had 33% females. True to form, we took over. We had a female class president. I began the first ethics course, period. Imagine having no ethics course in a top-rated medical school. In the first week of medical school, I embarrassed a doctor who routinely peppered his slides with nude female pictures by substituting nude male shots from Playgirl magazine. The doctor and the administration were embarrassed to the core and overnight took down all manner of misogynistic pictures, literature, and attitudes in the whole medical school. I also started the first annual snowball fight. And then I talk about Codex, where I decided if I was going to get into supplements, I would have to do it to avoid the Codex rulings. I think those trade agreements are being torn up by Trump. And now in 2017, we have 1 million doctors who are misdiagnosing 65 medical conditions that are really magnesium deficiency and using drugs that make things even worse. Doctors are forced to practice in HMOs with 5 to 7 minute appointments. Studies show that a doctor makes his or her diagnosis in the first 17 seconds of meeting a patient, and it's not long before he hands over a prescription, which signals the end of the appointment. And then I repeat that doctors are graded on how many patients they see, how many referrals they make, how many prescriptions they write, and how many procedures they perform, not on how many patients they heal. So I say rather than running straight to the doctor's office at the first sign of that something may be off, take a moment to question any recent lifestyle, diet, or sleep changes that may have occurred. Use the vast resources available online, we should say at my website, to figure out if you simply have a mineral deficiency or are stressed out. And if you visit a doctor, don't forfeit your entire will to them. Ask questions and continue to do research on what they propose. On what they propose you should be putting in your body. Aloha. Phew. So that's that, Jenny.
That's a great blog, Carolyn.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, things are just so massively out of kilter, and I'm going to be talking more about the chip body in my blogs, and
hey, Carolyn,
trying to indicate why people are getting so messed up.
We have a bulletin announcement. The modern Miss Walter Cronkite, who everybody trusted, is Charlie Rose.
Uh-huh.
I think he's even on 60 Minutes now. He interviews everybody every night during the week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Charlie Rose is going to be the headline of my first blog on sex harassment as magnesium deficiency. He just got removed from 3 stations because he's been charged by a bunch of women.
Really? Charlie Rose
is down.
Oh, no.
sexual harassment is magnesium deficiency, Bob. That's awesome. Oh,
No,
my God.
Frank made a good comment on there about that. He said, he says, how does he write this? Just go down a bit here. The relaxed aura of Remag sufficiency likely inhibits tendencies toward discomfort-driven abuse and manipulation of others. Mm-hmm. We will quote Frank in the first blog, Dr. Frank.
So he's talking about the perpetrator is magnesium deficient.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've got discomfort-driven abuse and manipulation of others. They're not comfortable, which creates a weird kind of self-consciousness, and then a resentment at your discomfort. So
8 women. Charlie Rose is accused of sexual harassment by 8 women.
Yeah.
They're going to nail everybody.
And they're saying, and the female producer who ran his show for many years is equally culpable because everybody was going to her and saying, hey, this guy's flashing his gear at me and all the rest of this. And she's like, no, that's just Charlie being Charlie. And she never took any action. Yeah. Yep.
You know, Carol, people on the chip body effects, they forgot the rules of chemical body interactions. I think it's almost like trying to get your body noticed. There's something imbalanced about it. You got to start flashing your private parts at people. I mean, you're feeling inadequate. I think you're going to have to mention the chip body effect here. Very good.
All right, everybody.
Let's go for Ascension, not women's sex and power. Ascension!
There you go. Very good. Very
this
good.
Show
Happy
is only for the
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Bob. Happy Jenny. Happy Bill. Happy audience.
Happy everybody.
Till next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
AchieveRadio.com. Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieve.